Hi, it's Mrs. Greenwald again, your Read Aloud volunteer, and we're going to have another story today. I was so busy last week with Thanksgiving that I didn't have time to read. I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving, and I'm glad to get back into the reading habit this week. The book for today is called Thank You, Amu. It's by Oge Mora, and our author gives us a little hint inside how I knew to say the name. O-M-U, which is the word on the front page, O-M-U, she says, is pronounced Amu, and it is the Igbo term for queen. Our author's parents are Nigerian, and they speak Nigerian language, and that is the word that they used for her grandmother. So although it means queen, for her, for Oge Mora, the author, that's the name for her grandmother. Look at where she lives. These pictures kind of are show us about the place where Amu lives. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Amu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. "What a delicious stew," Amu said. "Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I've ever had." With that, Amu put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until someone was at the door. When Amu opened it, she saw a little boy. "Little boy," Amu exclaimed, "what brings you to my home?" "I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell," the little boy replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." Stew," he sighed. "That sounds yummy." Amu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. "Would you like some?" The little boy nodded. And so Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Amu," the little boy said, and he went on his way. With that, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until when Amu opened the door this time, she saw, who do you think it's going to be? A police officer. "Miss Police Officer," Amu explained, "what brings you to my home?" "I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell," Miss Police Officer replied. "What is it?" "Well, thick red stew." "Ah, stew," she said, and her mouth watered. "That sounds mighty tasty." Amu thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. "Would you like some?" The police officer nodded. Once again, Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Amu," said the police officer, and went on her way. And so, for the second time, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block, until again, someone was at Amu's door. This time, when she opened it, she saw, who is it going to be this time? Do you know? Do you see someone you think in the picture that might come? A hot dog vendor. "Mr. Hot Dog Vendor," Amu exclaimed, "what brings you to my home?" I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied, What is it? Thick red stew. Oh, stew, the vendor licked his lips. That sounds delectable. What do you think Amo's going to do this time? So Amo spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amo, said the hot dog vendor, and went on his way. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood on Amu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker, and even the mayor stopped by. And each time they knocked, Amu shared. Soon the sky darkened, the street lights brightened, and it was finally dinner time. But when Amu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice eating meal, what do you think she found? It was empty. Amu sniffled. There goes the best dinner I ever had. Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot until... Who could that be? Amu wondered. When she opened her door, she saw... There she is, sitting and feeling kind of blue, wasn't she? She was hungry. And at the door was the little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Wait, everyone she fed today was at her door. I'm sorry, everyone, Amu sighed. My thick red stew is gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. Don't worry, Amu, we are not here to ask. We are here to give. Do you see everybody in the picture? The police officer carried a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Amu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day squeezed into her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. That was the best dinner she ever had. The end. I hope you liked that story. I did. It was a little surprising. I wonder what stories you're reading now. I enjoyed the video from Noah telling me about his stories that he likes to read. I hope I get to hear from the rest of you and you tell me what stories you like to read. I have just finished a book about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. It was the great detective. But it wasn't written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the original series about Sherlock Holmes. It was written by another author, Fairhay, and his daughter, and they took the character Sherlock Holmes and wrote new stories, and it was a lot of fun. Well, until I see you next week, have a good week. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.